Hello, welcome to the QMS podcast. I'm Kirsten.
And I'm Robert. We're your hosts for season 13, taking you on a journey through Scotland's red meat supply chain, from farm all the way through to fork.
Across the series, we'll be chatting with farmers, vets, processors, chefs, and lots of people from behind the scenes, sharing real stories, insights, and experiences from across the industry.
Whether you're working in the sector or just interested in where your food comes from, there's something here for you.
And don't forget to hit subscribe and follow us on socials so you never miss an episode.
Okay, so today starts off our farm to fork journey. So we start off obviously with the farm, with the primary producer, and I'm really pleased to be joined by a good friend and beef and sheep farmer from the southwest in Murray McConchie. Murray, how are you?
Very well, thank you very much, Robert.
Excellent. So I'm sure you're wondering why you've been dragged into this, but I'm certainly very grateful and excited to get in about your story. We've had a wee bit of chat before this, and certainly there's lots and lots to go at. So could you give us a bit of an introduction in terms of where you're from, what you do, what you're all about?
So I'm a beef and sheep farmer from southwest Scotland, down near Gatehouse of Fleet. We have currently farm about 1,300 acres, which is actually reduced as we speak to about, I think it's about 1,000 acres, with some of the hill grounds being planted. My brother owns about 1,000 acres of the hill ground, and he is currently in the middle of planting some. So we've got about 100 beef suckler cows, and we're running about 450 ewes, which are a mixture of cross ewes down in the low ground, some blue-faced Leicester pedigrees, and some pure Cheviots. Some get pure, some are crossed, for breeding our own replacements.
And what's your cow of choice? What's the herd made up of?
So we used to buy a lot of suckler, dairy cross, Limousin cross type cows in, and when I came home, every year we'd be buying sort of 10 cows in. And then I just thought to myself, we're crossing all of these with Charleys. Why are we not trying to breed our own replacements and, improve our herd health? So dramatically changed predominantly now to the Angus. One for ease of calving, two for replacements was a big one. No dehorning, which is great, and trying to make it simpler. With calving especially, I can get to 10 o'clock at night and I can go to bed, and I can wake up at 5 in the morning and know that anything that has calved overnight, 9 times out of 10 is up on its feet and sucked and is running around that field. Whereas with a Charolais, you could wake up and be half a calf hanging out at the back of a cow, and the cow would be lying on the ground and it wouldn't get up again.
Yep.
So not always, but it was.
It's funny how that Charolais story, it has actually changed. The Charolais breed have done a lot of good work and fairly improved the job they're doing. But there's nothing beats what you're talking about. Is that more relaxed, more straightforward system? And then you've got the hassle, the challenges of breeding your own and selecting your own, and it's a different job altogether.
Well, it's just me at home. Well, don't get me wrong, my dad's here. My dad's 81 now, although I think he still thinks he's about 50, and he runs around thinking he's invincible, which is great. And I couldn't be doing without him. But at the same time, I am aware that it's got to be manageable, with ideally just myself. I'm trying to breed replacements with temperament is key. Making sure that they're milky, making sure they're easy calving, trying not to get in. But if I go out to a field and have to walk a cow in a calf in, or a heifer in a calf in, the last thing I want to do is 10 laps around the bike. and then still not get rid, which has happened. But these things for me are quite important.
Mm-hmm. And it is worth saying we can still get that hassle with a black cow too.
Oh, 100%. No matter what, you think they're all nice and go and scratch them in the back, but no, you still get one or two. Doesn't matter what you do.
Yep. So I first met you, I think, I was thinking back, I think it would be 2018.
I think so.
I think
it was
through Rural Leadership, which was all good fun. So I've seen how your business has changed since then to now, and there's obviously quite a lot has happened, and we'll come into that just shortly. But I think what would be worth doing at this stage in terms of introduction to what Moss Yard's all about is maybe to look back the way a bit, is to go, where did the McConchies come from, or where did your business evolve from, if you like?
Yeah. So our business, or the McConchie family, started farming as tenant farms at Moss Yard in 1911. My great grandparents took it on then as tenant farmers, and then I think in 1956 we got the opportunity to buy Moss Yard, and within that time scale, my grandmother had already started her evolution into diversification. She'd put a small caravan site on. We're very lucky in our location, coastal, beautiful beach here. And so that was where the sort of, I suppose, agritourism journey started in our business. And it bolstered, I suppose, a small income for a small farm at the time. And my parents came to Moss Yard, and have sort of grown that side of the business as much as the farm. 1970, we bought a 1,000-acre hill farm at Lagan, and my dad and his brothers farmed that alongside the tourism side, and then I suppose taking that forward to the next generation, which was myself and my two brothers. My big brother came home in 2001 with his wife, or partner at the time, now wife. They've taken on the caravan site. And then I think I came home in 2003, a fleeting visit to say hello to my parents. And my dad was flat on the floor, begging me to go and buy him a packet of GPS from the local shop because he'd hurt his back. And I think at that point I realized that I wasn't really going to go anywhere. And here we are today, 23 years later, still here. Then that business changed again when my little brother came home, and then we got involved with Caroline Miller in 2015 when she came chapping on the door, and Duncan was desperately keen to figure out how we're going to split the business up into three separate businesses. So through the agritourism monitor farm, we did a succession planning, which was a very interesting project. And at the end of that, we came out with three separate businesses. So at that point, I came out myself with Moss Yard Farm, which is 250 acres of ground. But also within that split, I get the free use of the hill ground. So I get free use of the 1,000 acres of hill ground. And that is really where we're at today. However, that is changing as we speak. So every day, it's sort of it's getting trickier because, as I said, my little brother's planting 250, 300 acres of that hill ground at the moment. So there's 90 acres of summer grazing for heifers and replacements gone. So
Yeah.
we're just trying to figure out where we go from here.
Yeah. Kirsten, you're doing a bit of mediation stuff and succession stuff with RACBI, you could be the person to go through.
Yeah, I was just thinking there, Murray, it's really interesting listening to that, because you've obviously had a lot of history there with family. I think, would you be fourth generation that's farming Moshard then?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
fourth. My kids are coming up fifth, so it's it's quite a feat to there's quite a lot of history there going backwards.
And it's amazing as well that each of you have managed to make a business out of that area of land as well, which
Very much
would
so.
be quite unique. I would say that all three of you have managed to stay there. And you can kind of, with the story you were saying, and the diversification especially started so long ago, that would be quite unique as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I suppose the agritourism or the or diversification and going back to, I think in the day war broke out in 1945. My grandmother had 80 touring caravans. My grandparents had 80 touring caravans in a field on the farm, and by my dad says by tea time, they'd all gone because war had broken out, and that was it. Everybody scattered and went back to where they came from. But you know, in those days, it was not the done thing. Really, diversification. You're a farmer. What you doing? But they've my certainly my granny and my parents have been very open to the changes that they've had to witness over the generation. Certainly since the three of us have come home, it's been, I suppose, monumental in some respects of the change that they've had to witness and accept.
Well,
Before we go back to speak about livestock, can we just acknowledge the legend that is your granny, and tell us a little story about why she's a legend, Murray?
She's just been so she's just been this sort of almost royal member of our family. She sat so latterly they moved up to Lagan and lived in the hill and in the farmhouse up there, and they overlooked everyone else. And she was just this sort of matriarch in the family, and everybody sort of looked up to her for approval of whatever they did. And but she was just this character. She could bite, but at the same time, if you pushed her buttons, she would purr like a pussycat. And she loved nothing more than seeing the changes and the developments of the businesses. I think the biggest one for her was when Duncan, little brother, went and built a wedding venue 50 yards from her house. And, for a 95-year-old to have to try and get to sleep to ABBA's Dancing Queen on a Saturday night, then followed by 10 minutes of fireworks, followed by some drunken bloke peeing in a flower bed as he's trying to stagger back to his lodge. She was always this, and everyone morphed to the kitchen, and she made fresh pancakes and scones daily until she was about 99. And she died in, I think it was 2021. And it was just like, as I said to you before, she was someone who deserved almost a royal send off, certainly in our eyes. And but because it was in COVID, it was literally strictly immediate family. But we had one hell of a send off for her, even if it was just 20 of us. So yeah.
Phenomenal to have such a driving force behind the business with such, by the
100%.
sounds of it, so much respect from everybody as well. So she's certainly left a legacy behind her, that's for sure.
Definitely.
And
Definitely.
anybody that goes down a zipline on their 100th birthday is hats off to them.
Well, yeah, I know. And to come off it unscathed at the bottom, even if it was with a little bit of assistance to lower her down. But no, she enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. And she must have been, very proud to see what had happened, because it's a farming business is interesting. Like, it is that multi-generational story that you do. Obviously, when things go to plan, somebody does retire and look back on what's happened and what's happening, and it must be really brilliant to see that business, the way that business has evolved.
It's tricky though, because people, different generational views are so many people. I mean, I'm one of them. Don't like change. I like to know sometimes when or certainly I did, know what you're doing, know what's happening when you get up in the morning. You've got this, and then you get into structure, and it's so difficult to get out of that. So I suppose for someone who's had a structure around her life for such a long time to witness the changes. And when I say changes, I mean the monumental changes. They weren't just uh, first of all the zip wire, then people segueing past her window, and then as I said, a wedding venue. And it's like, but she loved nothing more than a wedding family to come and sit on her veranda or her outside and just talk to her about how proud she should have been, and she was just that's what she just loved about everything morphed into that.
So you've obviously got a lot going on within the business. You also have, like, down you're in the southwest, you're at Gatehouse of Fleet. You are very close to the sea, and that in itself is a unique selling
Yeah.
point for your diversification side. But what challenges does that actually create for you as a livestock farmer?
So I suppose first and foremost is your business having to make sure that everything is watertight. You do not want slurry running straight into the sea. You've got so many people running around. Because we have a public access through the farm down to the public beaches, and my grandfather arranged with the council when he bought the place that they would upkeep the farm road and allow people access to the beach. And that is the same today. But in doing that, it can create all hell, certainly in the summer, when you're trying to make silage, when you're trying to move cattle, when you're in the middle of lambing, and you've got car upon car upon car up and down the road. I mean, this whole host of problems. It's interesting how many farmers, I speak to, and they just say, "How I don't understand how you can actually cope with the number of tourists you have, certainly in the peak season, floating around." So I suppose that health and safety, which is a massive word at the moment, is one of the key things. You need to foolproof everything you do. But you've just got to look at it and try and make sure all the boxes are ticked when you're doing anything. I mean, I'm trying to move all of my livestock handling, my sheds, slowly, gradually moving them away from the being so close to the shoreline. And over time, I'm sure there'll be more sheds will go up, but they will be further away from the shoreline, which again has to be, and it's so many things that you've got to be aware of being down here.
It's probably not dissimilar to what our hill, your beach and our hill are probably the honeypot that people are heading towards. And
Yeah.
the thing that frustrates me particularly this time of year, is nothing. People, we are now very accessible. Folk can phone you, text you, message you, whatever way they can get hold of you, and the least wee thing at lambing time or something that just needs out the shed for a chance, and then you get it's quite frustrating, and it's frustrating when you get lots of people that they entirely mean well, but they stick their oar in. Or the worst one is when you get someone comes to the door with a wet lamb, says this lamb's mum ran away. You've got to pretend you're really grateful. Thank you very much.
You'll get people that come from the city, like I had about 3 years ago, and I found a girl running around a field chasing the cows, and I was like, terribly sorry, but what do you think you're doing? She's like, oh, I love cows. I've just wanted, always, it's on my bucket list. I just want to stroke a cow. And I said, well, I really don't recommend it out here. I said, but please, all they're going to do is they're going to turn around and say, enough's enough, and run back at you. I suggest you get back in your car and you maybe go back to the city, and we'll discuss this another time.
Now, we're amongst friends, Murray. So what did you actually say?
I was very polite that day. I don't know why. I think I must have been at a barbecue or something. But I did. I managed to. I usually send my dad, because he's far more diplomatic than I am. I tend to, my fuse is a little shorter than his is. So, yeah.
But while it brings challenges being in such a picturesque area and having so much
Yeah.
public, it must bring the opportunity as well to really show people this is how food is produced, this is what we do, this is how we manage the land. It must be really quite rewarding, some aspects of the opportunity as well.
Yeah, 100%. For myself and my wife, we've been farming down here. Well, I've been home since 2003, and we've never once had nobody's ever thought, right, okay, well, we should be selling our produce. You do get every year, somebody will come in and say, have you got any burgers or meat off the farm? No. And it was really in the last sort of 4 or 5 years that we started thinking. I mean, we'd gone down the diversification route further, myself and wife, and so we built a bit more tourism, holiday accommodation, and then we're sort of scratching our heads. And actually, my wife went off and did the rural leadership, and she came back, and she's been like she's been like the possessed ever since, and which has been wonderful. But she's completely and utterly the driving force behind the changes that we're making just now. I'm at sort of 49, 50 this year, and I'm just like, just quite nice to have a wee bit of time off, isn't it? Oh, no. We're going to start a farm shop, and we're gonna start selling our own meat. And I was like, okay, that's a great idea. I'm keen. And then so it's sort of grown arms and legs from there. But it's amazing how many people love the fact that now they can come and stay on site, and they have the opportunity to buy burgers, sausages, steaks. They can come and eat a hot sausage roll. They can come and eat pies, fresh baking. I obviously don't have a coffee plantation yet, but they can come and have a takeaway coffee and sit and meet the farmer or my father.
Or his dad, because he's more chat.
Who, in the peak season is absolutely useless, because he just sits outside the coffee shop vaping and chatting. And it's just like, Dad, you're blocking the public road here. So I'm chatting. But if you want any lamb's tail, there's no hope. No hope. So our field to fork sort of that's really where we started thinking about, we need to be looking at selling more produce direct to customer. I'd mentioned it in the past to I think I'd mentioned it to some relatives in the passing, and they were very much like, pointless, don't do it, don't do it. And I was just like, why not? And but this, I suppose the old school is very, a lot of them are stuck in their own ways. And it's like, but I find that quite, I don't know, anyway, we just said we're gonna try it. We've got our prime location. We've got, in the peak season, my brother has a caravan site, and there can be 300-400 people, I suppose, including kids, on there at any one time. And we've got the public access to the beach that can bring in on a hot day. You could have 400 or 500 cars up and down this road on a good day. So, it's like, well, let's so Amy's been the driving force behind setting that up. And yeah, it's gone from strength to strength. We're 3 years in now to setting the farm shop up.
And do you think at the moment, so we're obviously in an interesting place at the moment where certainly the store cattle you would normally be selling, or you are selling, are worth more than they've ever been worth before, or certainly in the last couple of years they've been flying. Are you at a point where, do you think you're better off financially selling your own stuff? Or do you think it's spreading risk? Where do you think we're at with that?
So that's quite an interesting one, because the way that the structure of the business works at the moment, it's all run under the farm. So the farm shop isn't, so it's not its own entity, so it's still part of the farm. So on paper, yes, the accountant will do the moving of but I'm not selling my £2,000 heifer to the farm shop. Cattle, I suppose, are different because we're only putting 2 or 3 through the shop a year at the moment. So I suppose that's still, you think of it, that could still be £4,000 to £6,000 a year. Lambs, I think the last count we were putting 20. Last year was 20 lambs through the shop, and then we're putting about 16 pigs through the shop. So the farm shop has started buying the pigs recently, which is quite good. I have to feed them. That's not so good. But the upscaling of the, I suppose, so a £2,000 heifer, I think we can probably make around about £4,500 out of her. So I think, and certainly in the pig side. So initially, when we were killing and putting a fat pig, so we buy weaners and we're taking them on to fat. And initially, when we were selling them, I think you're looking at about £500. So there's very little profit in that. However, we've started turning them into, so we've started cooking the roasts and turning them into pies, making sausage rolls, doing a lot of mincing. Last price, I reckon, is £1,200 out of what would have been 5 if you're just selling it. So it's turning that produce into something better, and then and trying to sell that. So it's always evolving. But we do other nights. We're hoping to do some burger nights this summer. So yeah, again, you've got a burger at X price. Let's cook it. Let's sell it. Try and make it as good as we can. and add value to that product. So it's there's lots of things going around in our heads,
If
exciting things.
if you've got let's say the caravan site, so if
Yeah,
people are looking for that burgers, sausages, steaks,
yeah.
how are you coping with carcass balance?
In what respect?
How are you making sure that it's all sold and that you're not left with certain
Well,
parts?
so we've got a year, obviously, from a lot of it's frozen. So we get our 2 weeks of fresh. So we try and hit the market. So we'll put a heifer into slaughter on beginning of June. So it comes into the farm shop at beginning July-ish. We've got that 2 week window to sell fresh, other than your burgers, which have got a shorter shelf life because they've got generally preservatives, flavorings, things like that in them. Then it goes into the freezer. So you've then got a year from that date to sell it. And so anything we don't sell fresh is kept. But we also work locally with the Galloway Food Hub, which is a sort of organic producer. Almost, we don't sell the beef through that, but the lambs and pork goes through that. So throughout the year, um, there's a hub locally that people are buying from us. So we're selling, and we make sure that if we have a freezer full of meat, we're not just continually topping it up. We do try and keep an eye on making sure that things are moving. If things weren't moving, we wouldn't be doing it. So it's we put a heifer in just before Christmas, and there's nothing left. I think it's like, wow. Says, well, where are all the burgers that we set aside for the burger nights? Oh no, they've all sold. So it's quite an interesting one.
And earlier on at the start, you were talking about the cattle system, and see if I can remember. I think you said you were looking for an animal that had ease of calving, they had
Yeah,
milk, they had a good temperament. You rallied off pretty much the ultimate suckler cow, I think, with all your wants and desires.
yeah.
That will lead, I guess, to a low intervention animal. But from a welfare kind of perspective, do the customers ever ask? Do they ever ask, how has this animal lived? Has it been out in a grass system? Do you get those kind of inquiries?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we get a lot of interaction, especially in the shop. If people see, I suppose, Amy does a lot on social media, a lot on Instagram and Facebook, and well, my daughter's suddenly taken on the TikTok arm of our business, which beyond me, I have nothing to do. I just get that I have to be in the photographs, and people come and they know you. They're like, oh hi, it's Farmer Murray, and it's like, how do you know me? It's like, oh, I've seen you in the videos. It's like da da da. But a lot of people come in and ask tell me about your beef. It's like, okay, and I will talk to them about the 100% grass fed. Well, I say 100%. When they're young stock, they'll get a minimal amount of concentrate just to keep them growing in the shed. But we don't, certainly not got creeps out that they're just getting stuffed full of cake. For me, it is about creating something going forward that will be 95% grass fed. And why wouldn't you want that? It's about having, but it's also about creating something that is going to be tasty. It's and the feedback we've had so far has been very, very good. I don't think we've had one customer come back saying that was bloody awful. That was as chook as an old cast cow that
And
you've
if it
had
was, you
for.
would certainly have that feedback, wouldn't you?
Oh well, but I think it's good to get this feedback. If someone comes in and says, "Oh, I know that was terrible," please take it off. You would go and try some yourself, and make sure that it was just the dentistry that is causing the problems.
And when you're
So
selecting, so if you're looking towards breeding, so in terms of,
yeah,
are you now, so it's obviously still a small percentage that you're killing yourself.
yeah.
How focused are you on the store ring and what that guy's needing, and how much of it's about the farm shop?
90% of it's still about the store ring. Well, actually, no, I'd take that back. I would say it's about 50-50. I am looking for a good replacement as much as I'm looking for that that carcass. Yes, I'm looking for a good bullock with some great shape if I can. But at the same time, it has to be fairly easy calving. I'll take a gamble. I don't like to go for, like I'll go for a -5 in the calving ease. It doesn't have to be +5, +15, whatever. But at the same time, when I'm looking at a bull, I'm looking at it has to have a bit of length. It has to have that shape, so that the females have to have that bit of length. I'm not into creating a smaller and smaller and smaller cow. I like to have for me, it's having a good sized cow that will hold a good calf and give a easy birth. Although some of these cows, my God, they can, the Anguses can, my God, they can put the fat on with that's where you've got to be a bit careful, because some of them just, it's the odd one. But again, this is where natural, it's with selection, you get these cows that are putting condition on themselves. The calves are doing, they're not doing they're not doing. So well, she's away. And that's where, with the computer system I use, I'm looking back through and checking mothers and mothers and for selecting heifers, making sure that they plenty of milk, temperament, feet. All these things are really key. And then, but for at the same time, you're looking for that bull calf, or a calf that's going to have a resale value. It has to be, so there's a bit of both in there.
And do you have any more, now you're a finisher as well? Do you have any?
Yeah.
Do you speak to the guys buying your cattle any more than you used to, or are you targeting? Is there anybody doing something similar that's actually now buying your cattle because of what they are, or not quite at that stage?
No, I don't think so. No, we're not at that stage yet. I mean, the people that are buying the stores, I mean, we're predominantly autumn calving, so about 70 cows are autumn calving. So our main sale is end of September. And when you're going to these sales, there's a lot of cattle. You're 1,300 cattle getting put through the ring. So I'm not targeting yet um, any particular buyer, or trying to target other shops, or get into retail that way. So, but
Yeah, you target the highest price. That's what we all have to do.
unfortunately, that's how it does come down to that.
Yeah.
Again, but the way the system I'm running, I'm trying to put less into the animal itself. I'm certainly not force feeding these cattle on creeps. They have to come on naturally. And the trouble is with an Angus calf, if you start putting too much cake down in front of them, they just go and fatten just like that, and just too fat. And certainly the heifers, they'll get a little dribble of concentrate through the winter, but other than that, I don't want them too fat, because as soon as you put a calf in them, you're just having all sorts of trouble with your first calves. So
You
it's
said there that you're predominantly autumn calving. So I take it you've got two
yeah.
herds, have you? And why predominantly autumn?
Because I suppose it's the system that I've inherited. But we lamb sheep in March and April, so there's always been this little pocket of 30 cows that we've had in the hill ground that we've calved in the spring alongside doing the lambing. I don't know. I've been trying to figure out if we could tweak our system or our shed system that we've got to allow us to either not so. I'd probably still go autumn. Still probably go autumn. Yeah, I think the inputs are still probably slightly higher because we're buying straw in for bedding them. But the infrastructure's there. I've been lucky that I've inherited that over since my dad put it in. I'm modifying it slightly by putting scrapers and things like that in, but so it works quite well.
The costs will be higher, but then you'll be gaining that and a heavier calf to sell, I imagine.
Yeah, yeah. So the back end calves tend to be that little bit heavier. So I think this spring we had a pen of four away, 450 kilos at 12 months, 13 months, and then the next pen down, second pen in was about 380 kilos. So it's quite a big difference in weight. So yeah, but the back end calvers, I think would average about 440 kilos last sale we had. So that there's quite a bit of difference, quite a bit of income difference as well. So yeah.
And you're selling them through the live ring rather than
Yeah.
private. Yeah.
Yeah, I've gone down the private route in the past, or through an auction mark, but privately. So I've done that in the past, mainly when we had Charlies. I've tried with the Anguses, but I've never really been offered. I've always been better selling them in the ring. I would certainly, never say never. But having an auction mart locally it's pretty vital.
Yeah.
Without these commodities, I think it's going to be a really tough job.
You certainly see
it's
where the dairy industry's at the moment in terms of you're tied into a contract to one buyer. You're it's all or nothing.
No, absolutely.
Clients, neighbours, friends that have lost contracts just recently based on their postcode or based on their litres or based on, and actually having that live market for us, I agree. I think it's so important just to have that. If you don't want them, someone else will buy them.
Yeah. And the number of livestock marts in Scotland, I mean, there's far and few between now. Yes, we're lucky. We've got 2 or 3 in the southwest. We've got Newton Stewart, which still runs a few. Castle Douglas. You've got Lockerbie, Dumfries, and then you're on to Carlisle. But then obviously after that, you're really up to Stirling, and it's 3-hour journey up to Stirling. There's a lot of people do send livestock up there, but so far, I mean, we used to sell all our calves in Carlisle up until about 5 years ago, and then I decided actually I would give Castle Douglas a go again, and I've been delighted with trade so far, more or less.
And Castle Douglas for you will be what? It'll not be half an hour, will it?
Oh, it's 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So, for me to especially spring calving, when you're selling your yearlings and you're in the middle of lambing, you can nip up and make sure they sell, watch them go through the ring, and then get back for round 2 of lambing. So It's it's
farm
handy.
for just long enough as be seen again.
Long enough to have a chat,
Yeah.
and freshen your head up and realize that talking to sheep isn't actually that satisfying.
I think you also talk to other people who are having the same issues, and I think that's really valuable. Like that's,
I think it is.
yeah, really important.
Yeah, but there's yeah.
I'm aware we've not really spoken about the sheep, but before we move on to the sheep, I'm interested to know, what is your main productivity driver with your cattle? What do you really want to achieve from that herd?
I would like to. My aim is to become 100% grass fed in the beef, and realistically, I suppose that for me is that's where I want to get to, and I want to be able to run my herd of cattle predominantly on my own. I'm trying to make it a bit more of a foolproof system. Yes, we've got the sheds there, but the longer I can keep them out in the winter, but trouble is in winters, and every winter's different at the moment. This winter was appalling. The cows came in December. I'd love to be able to keep the cows out all year. I hate seeing them inside for 3, 4 months. But we couldn't have done it this year. We'd have nothing left for them to go outside to. So, we're very lucky we've got these sheds, that nice airy, good sheds. But so yeah, that's my main target is to reduce reduce inputs,
And do you think,
concentrate.
you go to Pasture for Life, or you go and be accredited for it, or are you just aiming to reduce it and keep it as an option?
I'm open to all options. If I can go to Pasture for Life, great. And if it's going to work, then it's something to work towards. We did a thing through the Bank of Scotland with the Soil Association recently. An interesting one. I was quite keen to get put in touch with other people locally that had done the same thing, so that we can actually maybe create a group of like-minded people and knock heads together and see how you go about without ploughing and without cultivation, and obviously direct drilling and whatever. But they were like, nah, we can't data, not let it pass other people's data on. And I'm just like, well, what waste, what waste. So, but to sort of get like-minded people together, and it was a bit like the rural leadership. That's what I really got out of it. Bouncing ideas off people that are in the same boat, and networking. It's just such a good tool, and I just would love to be able to do much more of that, to find ways around it.
So if you're listening to this and you want to get in a group with Murray, go to Moss Yard, buy a burger, meet his dad,
Absolutely,
speak to Murray.
give you a discount.
But yeah, I mean, you cannot. The value of that network, the value of getting off farm, discussing things. Actually, you realise that you're doing a good job, and also you pick up wee bits and pieces that make you do a better job.
Yeah, I think so. And it can be something, it can be minuscule. It really can. It can be just something that you say, God, why? I mean, it would take 5 minutes to do that or implement that. But a lot of it, unfortunately, is it's going to be big change. It's going to be a lot of cost going forward, and a lot more time. And that is, at the moment with our diversifications, time is pretty precious. And trying to juggle cooking pizzas on a Friday night, and lambing sheep, and calving cows, and keeping kids happy, and taking them to pony club and swimming and gymnastics, and making sure you're trying to be the best dad you can. It's like it's it all eats into your. I mean, there's not a lot of time left at the end of the week, so.
And that's there's an exciting and positive change there. But if you go back, previous generations, the dad just went and worked.
Yeah, I was speaking
And
to my auntie about that tonight, and she was just saying, I don't know how you do it, with the amount of time that you invest in your kids, because your dad and his brothers, the structures of their businesses didn't allow, or it was something that they didn't really get involved in,
yeah, I think it was a
and it was
cultural thing as much as anything.
left to the wives to take the boys or the girls to Scouts and Brownies or to gymnastics or to cadets or whatever. And, they still, in most cases, they expected still to come in and have the tea on the table. And so whereas things have changed somewhat,
Positively,
positively,
definitely. Yeah.
100%.
It's also a great excuse to get off the farm and just talk
Yeah,
about something else, see
yeah.
something else, and just if you've had a bad day in the lambing field, it gets you off the place, doesn't it? It's a great mental change.
I think it's really important to have that. I mean, as I said, the structure of where we are, we've always got tourists floating around. In middle of lambing time, the shops open generally sort of 4 days, 5 days a week, and there's always somebody there that you can actually just have a chat to. And yeah, there's times that you don't want to have that chat, and you can just jump on your quad bike and vanish. But there is times that you need that, and it's quite an isolating industry, um, and you spend a lot of time on your own, so it can be, those days off the farm, as you say, or just having somebody, the days of having reps popping in to come and see you are far few between.
Mhm.
Now, some of these reps you don't want to see. Some of them, actually, it's quite nice just to sit down, have a cup of coffee, and just chat. So it's yeah, the likes of all these, you see, likes of Farmstrong. It's probably uh, all these things are really good. Just trying to get people to talk and be a bit more open and not so isolated. But there'll be so many people stuck up in the hills that don't see people for weeks and weeks. And I just couldn't. For me, I'm very lucky that we've got the. I've been brought up with the tourism side, and that's been great for me. So
I think we've not spoken about sheep, and obviously sheep are the most important thing in any farm. So I think we better talk
Debatable.
about the
Yeah.
sheep. Talk us through the sheep enterprise, Murray.
so up until about 7 or 8 years ago, we'd have a small flock of blue-faced Leicesters, we'd have some cross ewes, and we'd have about 500 blackie and 550 blackie ewes, predominantly in the hill ground, breeding our own replacements, and it was starting to become more and more of a problem. Lambings were becoming a problem with the horns. The horns were getting stronger, the heads were getting stronger, and I was getting a bit disillusioned with it. I had a young lad working for me at the time doing my shepherding up on the hill, and we introduced a few. I thought I'd try a few Cheviates. Somebody had said, "Oh, you should try a few Cheviates and see what they're like." So I bought some Cheviot ewe lambs and stuck them in the hill, thinking, "Well, we'll see if they survive, you know, the ground we've got." And there they were the next year, ready for tupping. I was like, right, okay, go and buy some more Cheviot ewe lambs. So bought another 50. Tupped those and produced some good lambs. And a few years down the line, when we're about half and half, the shepherd young lad decided he needed change of job, so he moved on somewhere with a house. And at that point, I mean, I was like, I'm done with blackies. So I just sold the lot and replaced them with Cheviates. So my hill crown is we're 100% Cheviates up there. Again, I think we're down to we're sitting about 250 ewes up on the hill, across about 120 of them to the Leicester to produce the mules for Moss Yard. And it's day and night. I have to say, the carcass on a lamb, we're finishing them 100% grass fed, and we're getting these carcasses to, I think we're killing them out, they're going to market about 46 kilos, or not going to market, they're going to the abattoir, we hang a lot direct to slaughter with a lot of them. The heavier lambs will put through the ring, but 90% of them will be hung up, and with some going through the shop.
So you're using a really nice kind of stratified system there with the assets that you've got land-wise, and you've got your hill breeding the sheep for your lowland.
Yeah.
What kind of lambing percentages are you getting from hill to lowland?
So when we had the blackies, I think we would be scanning about 130%. Last year, we scanned the Cheviates at 160. Now, I was always told that you'll never get the same number of lambs out of a Cheviot, and it was all rubbish. This year, the scanning percentages were about 130%. So we were back down. There's a lot of singles in there this year. And there would be some overfat gimmers that there was quite a few overfat that didn't get in lamb. But again, at the same time, I'm trying to pull in my lambing period from what would have been 6 weeks. Tups are out for 4 weeks now, and that's it. So I'm at that stage in the cutback to 4 weeks that you're going to lose a few more, but at the same time we're tightening that lambing period up. So
you're on a true hill lambing though. You maybe end up with a higher lambing percentage at a scanning at 130 rather than 160, because
yeah,
she's always going to manage that single lamb so much better in a hill environment.
yeah. So we've got in-by fields up in the hill ground, and predominantly all the twins will stay in-by. And then the singles will be in-by for about a week and a half, and then they're marked and put onto the hill. And that's it. You just chuck them out. So they've got 800 acres of heather hill to graze on. And last year, actually, we had this time of year we were actually burnt up because it had been such a dry period, and we had no grass left. So literally, I put everything on the hill, twins the lot. And you know what? They did bloody well. Came off there in great shape. So I was delighted with that.
I always think it's interesting so obviously I'm not saying you've not got a hill, because it definitely is a hill, it's a proper hill, but it's definitely a southwest hill. If you went to if you went to the northwest, what you've got is effectively a really, really good hill park. And if you've got those gimmers that are too fat, you've got it's all pointing towards a strong hill that carries stock well. Does it's
but I suppose as well we've reducing our sheep numbers up in the hill dramatically. So I mean we've pretty much halved them, but it's day and night. Would be properly pushing the boundaries with 550 sheep up there. Blackies originally, and Coxie, worm burden, all of these things were an issue. Where I'm noticing a big difference now. Things, Coxie, you can still pick up the odd bit of Coxie here and there, and the worm burden has dropped dramatically. So it's it's going to be an easy system as much as the calving. But I'm finding that the Cheviates are bloody good mothers. If you're not careful, you can go up the road in the morning and three mothers will be trying to steal the one lamb. They're you've got to be on top of it. So, but they're great for twinning on.
And again, that's having that plenty of scope will be helping that in a way as well.
Yeah,
If they're all on
massively.
top of each other, it could be a different
Yeah.
game altogether.
No, definitely. So it's, but also, I mean, we've had customers coming in just saying that the lamb is phenomenal. They've never had lamb like it. So that, is great when you get customers just saying, just the feedback you get. And we've had farmers coming in saying, what breed is it? Because I want more of it. I'm not saying that the Blackie, it's still one of the top meats you can buy in lamb, but I think the Cheviot whether it's the fact that it's 100% grass fed now, and it's slower matured. We're probably selling the last of our lambs in February, March. But majority of them are away by Christmas, January time. So it's they're a wee bit slower growing.
Lamb's such a difficult thing because there's some people's preference would be, that Texel straight off its mother, still on milk, and then somebody would want a Blackie hog at 12 months old, and everything in between, because the gaminess, lamb's quite a strong taste. I enjoy lamb, but I wouldn't want it too strong.
Yeah, we've got a few people asking for mutton in the shop, and it's a different, as you say, the older it gets, the stronger it gets. And as the older generation love mutton, but it's not something everyone wants. I make sure that our animals are kept the highest welfare, and that's really important for me, even to the point of taking them up the road in a trailer. I'd love them to be, if we could set up some form of system where we could slaughter them on farm, it would be, I'd love, it'd be the best way for me, but it's just the red tape is phenomenal. So I ain't gonna happen anytime soon.
It's very interesting you're saying about somebody's wanting to know about the whole journey. Like you are in charge of the majority of its journey, but yes, it's going away for the processing. And it's quite interesting, like we do Christmas turkeys. So we talk to quite a lot of customers at that time of year. And I always find it interesting. Most years we'll have a vegetarian will buy a turkey off us. And it is largely that we want to know the journey of it. We want to know its high welfare. Like those parts are actually more important, and that makes them want to try. So I don't know, have you had any vegetarians want to try anything?
There's always a couple. There's always a few. We've got a friend in Kakubri who's been vegetarian for 20 years, and I think between him and his wife, they lapse once or twice a year, and his lapse is to go and buy a doner kebab. Now, if I was a vegetarian that wanted to eat meat, I mean, I would be going down the route of a steakhouse, I'm sure, not going to get a doner kebab, which is, I mean, you don't know what you're eating. Let's be honest.
You've got a good chance, so you've selected all the meats, though. There'll be, it's all mixed in.
I think so. But there is people that come in. We had actually a vegetarian lady applied for a job in the shop this year, and Amy was like, "Look, I'm really sorry, but how's it going to work that you're selling our meat, yet you're a vegetarian?" So, I'll get round it. I'll get round it. Well, okay, we'll keep you in mind. And then, thankfully, someone else came up and has ticked the box. But it was like, that's a tough one when you're saying, the sausage roll is the finest, free range pork, which you can see over here, and it's like, right, okay, but yeah, it's are you going to be giving it that gold star, or are you just going to say, try the roast veg quiche in the bottom counter?
hidden away with the light off.
No, they're never hidden away because they're all fresh as well.
Aye.
Amy does do a fine selection of quiches.
Where do you go next for the business then? You've succeeded after 4 generations. You have beef, you've got lamb, you've got pork, you've got a farm shop, you've got diversification. What does 10 years' time look like for you?
It's an interesting one. So I'm at a crossroads at the moment because my summer grazing is now being planted in trees. My hill ground, the hill ground itself is not, well, 300 acres of that has been planted. The rest of it's okay at the moment. My brother owns the ground, and it, rightly so, he can do what he likes with it. But obviously, at the moment, I'm farming it. His son Robbie has got about 30 sheep, and his other two boys have got about 150 chickens. So that free movement of livestock is getting smaller and smaller. So I'm at a difficult crossroads at the moment about knowing what to do. I've priced up buying some land locally. The cost of repayments is terrifying. Do I want to be paying that off until I'm 70 years old? And then realistically, come that point, I'll be selling it anyway. Maybe I say that my girls might suddenly decide they want to farm, but at the moment they are not showing any interest. So we're at this crossroads of, do we go down the route of downsizing to 250 acres and figuring out how we can manage. It'd be some big change, I think. Cattle numbers would be reduced, sheep numbers would be reduced. I'd have to probably change to getting rid of cross shoes and putting on a pedigree flock of something. So yeah, there could be some big changes there. We're looking at pushing the farm shop offering. Certainly, that is changing as we speak. So we're putting on a commercial kitchen to do some more, hopefully some more home meals for tourism. For people coming to stay in the caravan site or whatever. But also doing some more breads, things like that. Trying to work with collaboration with local restaurants but also we're putting on an outdoor kitchen to do more pizza nights. So at the moment, on a Friday night, we'll do a pizza night, wood-fired pizzas. So we do that every Saturday or every Friday during the summer. But if we can possibly extend that window, we'll do that. Looking at possibly a barbecue beef burger night. We also have permission for another 3 shepherd's huts on the farm down here, but that in itself is fairly. There's a part of me that thinks that the glamping sector could be a bit saturated. However, we have quite a unique location with the beach and with the offerings at Moss Yard. So that might, but it's the cost of doing, we're sort of priced up putting the 3 shepherd's huts up, and it's just, it's absolutely terrifying. So the return on investment would be quite minimal. So there's masses to go forward with, but it's just how I get my head around it, and just where we go.
I think for me, it's something you've not said actually, but I think it's quite exciting that where the red meat sector's at the moment, things are pretty positive. There's some scary stuff in terms of macroeconomics and diesel prices and fertilizer prices and things, but we are selling a product that people want.
Yeah.
Where we still have, we've had there's been a pretty big reduction in the suckler herd, And we're now at a place, I think, that the long-term outlook for what we are doing is pretty positive. And so it's good that if we had that conversation maybe 5 or 10 years ago, the first thing you might have said was, I would just put my cows off. And actually the cows now are a pretty integral part. And one swallow doesn't make a summer. We've had a few good years.
Yeah.
But those cows are now an integral part of what that business is and how it works. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
I think that the future for the core bit of the business, it looks to be really pretty positive.
Yeah.
And your issues are in terms of succession, and succession's always ongoing. Like, you think you have the meeting, you get succession done, and then you leave it a year and realise that it's your turn. That it's passing on to kids.
Absolutely.
The next bit. So, and the more successful your business is, the harder it is to deal with in the end.
Well, that's it. You know, I mean, we're again so lucky that we've managed to develop, I suppose, 3 entities to our business. You know, we've got the holiday accommodation, we've got the farm shop now, and we've got, you know, a farm that is, you know, is making money. Obviously, with the change in subsidies going forward, you know, currently at the moment, you know, we're making a profit, but take those subsidies away, there's always going to be something there to bolster, or prices are going to skyrocket, or they're going to have to back that up. But you know, yeah, I completely agree. I think, you know, we're at a stage now that I can't see beef really dropping a huge amount more. But it's just, I suppose for me, it's just trying to pinpoint the direction I'm going to go down over the next few years, to secure. I mean, you know, don't get me wrong, I've got my 250 acres, and that's manageable. But if I can still have my spring calving cows at Lagan, maybe have to outwinter them. But there's options, and I just need to. I think my slatted sheds probably had it, but you know, there are other options, as you know, just by, you know, we could put in a field of kale and then bring them in, come closer to calving and things like that. So, you know, well, we've got options there. And the sheep side, yeah, I think that's certainly fairly manageable, but it would have to become something, you know, rather than having to buy sheep in every year. I think if I can, you know, have a purebred flock that I can, you know, breed my own, and you know, maybe buy the odd female for a bit of different bloodline here and there, but you know, still keep it a closed flock going forward is quite important to me. So
You just
there's
need
lots
to
to think about.
dramatically expand that blue flock. That would be the way forward.
You know, I'm not 100% convinced about the expanding any blue-faced Leicester flock. I think for sanity reasons, it might have to go the other way. Yeah. Or maybe I start lambing them in August.
I think though, like from what you've spoken about throughout this podcast, it's clear that you've got resilience in mind. You have, like you've spoken about, you've got the shed that's reaching the end of its life. You do have other options there. You've spoken about you could outwinter. You've got a cow that sounds that she's very adaptable and very suitable to that type of management system. And same with the sheep. So I have no doubt that in the future you're very much going to still be surviving and thriving very, very well. You've got, by the sounds of it, a lot of different habitats and a really kind of biodiverse area that you're working. You've spoken about you've got scrub, you've got grassland, you've got hill, you've got coastal land. You know, you've got a bit of everything that will really help with adapting to what the future brings as well. So it's been really, really good speaking to you, Murray. I've really actually enjoyed it. I don't know about yourself, Robert.
No.
I just want to come for a pizza night now. That's a big plan.
Well, you're always welcome. You're always welcome. I'll do you a good deal.
Oh, we have to pay.
Nah, don't be silly. I say that now. I'm not on the till.
Get us there first, yeah.
You don't have to pay for the pizza, but you've got to buy all those burgers, Robert, when you're there.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. And
Definitely.
Big podcast fee now as well, so that's good.
No, it's been good. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, it's good to catch up. It's good to see you.
Absolutely. It's been far too long.
That's all for this episode of the QMS podcast. Thanks for listening.
We hope you've enjoyed hearing another story from Scotland's red meat supply chain.
Across this series, we're bringing you real insights from the people who make the industry what it is, sharing their challenges, their opportunities, and everything in between.
Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and follow us on socials for updates and behind-the-scenes content.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time as we continue the journey through the supply chain.